Welcome back to Comics with Drew. This is Drew, and today we are going to talk about ENIAC, ENIAC number 1. This is a 4-issue limited series, and it's important because it's the first ever book by Bad Idea, the publishing company. If you're unfamiliar, Bad Idea is a very small publishing company that got its start last year in 2020. And I remember going into the local comic shop and they had these flyers saying, oh, Bad Idea's coming out and they're gonna be a really interesting, cool company. And they've got this first book called ENIAC that you can sign up for. And so I was like, well, ENIAC, well, I know what ENIAC is. If you're, if you're a nerd like I am, and you like computers and World War II and history and stuff like that, ENIAC was it's actually a real computer. It was the first digital computer, and it was built in the 40s, the early 40s, and it was completed in 1946. And ENIAC stands for Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, and it was the first programmable electronic general purpose digital computer. It was designed and used to calculate artillery firing tables for the U.S. Army's Ballistic Research Laboratory. And basically, it was pretty good at that. It would do a calculation for a trajectory in 30 seconds. And this is to give you an idea of how much of a leap forward in technology that was. It would take a person 20 hours to do the same kind of calculation. So anyway, it was dedicated in 1946, and then it got shut down because it was used in Pennsylvania, or it was used at the University of Pennsylvania, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But it was shut down for some refurbishment, and then it was moved to a different location. I believe it was moved to Maryland, to some proving ground there, if I understand correctly. And it was turned on again in 1947, and it ran straight from 1947 to 1955, ran continuously. So this is a pretty big deal. So when I went to the comic shop and I saw that the first issue of this new comic book from this new company was going to be called ENIAC, I said, this sounds cool, put me down for it. Well, that was, I believe, March. No, it was February, I believe, of 2020. And so then this was not supposed to be coming out until May, I believe, at the time. And of course, the pandemic hit, and it was kind of radio silence. We didn't hear anything about it for a long time. In fact, I even called the comic shop and said, hey, whatever happened to this ENIAC book? And they said, oh, we don't know. So fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And it was Thursday, and I had heard that ENIAC had come out. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't know ENIAC was out already. I didn't know it was coming out. I had no warning whatsoever. And so I thought, I did put myself down on the list at the comic shop for this book. So I wonder if they still have it. Well, the shop was closed. So I went on and I said, if it's not there, maybe I can find it on eBay just for kicks. Let me go look it up. And oh my God, this book was selling for like $100 raw on eBay. And I was like, oh my God. Now, the reason why, if you're wondering, the reason why it was selling this way is because the whole point of Bad Idea, this particular publisher, is that they don't offer a couple different things. There are no digital copies of the book, all right? So you have to buy it physically. The book is only going to be sold in, I think, 250 shops worldwide. They have to have a relationship with Bad Idea. They have to be signed on, and they have to pre-order the books. And the book is one per customer. So it's one per customer per store. So if you go in and you buy a copy of this book and they happen to have more than one, they are not allowed to sell you a second copy of it. Additionally, beside that, there are no variants. So there's the first printing, and then there's what they call the second printing. So there's only one copy of the first printing, and that actually has the white logo here. I don't actually have a second or what they call the next printing. I don't have a copy of the next printing, which has the same cover except this logo is in black. So, and because of the fact that you can't get it digitally, it's one per person, and there's a first printing and a second printing, and there aren't any variant covers, this makes the book kind of rare and kind of hard to find. So I would call the next day. The store opened up, and I called the next day, and I said, hey, do you remember me putting myself down for ENIAC number 1? They said, oh yeah, we've got it for you, first printing. And I was like, Yes. Now there are actually 3 stores, I believe, in my area, Orlando, that actually do carry Bad Idea. And I did actually get on the list for one of the other stores, so I was able to get a copy of it there as well, but not the 3rd store. So, because I didn't really know about the 3rd store, I didn't recognize that it was close enough that I could drive to. But I got lucky. I called them both, and both places actually had me down. So I was able to get a copy from each place. Very hard to do. So that being said, picked it up, I got it home, and I opened it up and I read it, and I will tell you this. This is, without a doubt, the best book I've read this year. In fact, this actually may be the best comic book I have read in years. It is a phenomenal book. I'm not going to open this up because, they're hard to come by and I don't want to damage the book. And I read it one time, but one time was enough. It is a 40-page, I believe it's 40 pages long. I didn't count the pages, but it's by Matt Kindt. He's the writer. The art is Doug Braithwaite, and the colors are by Diego Rodriguez here. I can't recommend this book enough. It's a really well-written story. Just to kind of give you a synopsis here, ENIAC, and unlike the real-world ENIAC, this ENIAC became basically self-aware. They designed it and they built it to basically help them win World War II. And so what it did was it helped make decisions as to what to do to win the war. And one of the decisions that was made was whether or not to drop the atomic bomb on Japan. And so Truman got the calculations from ENIAC, and basically it said there's a high percentage chance that if we drop the bomb on Japan, if the US drops the bomb on Japan, then the war will end and Japan will surrender. Well, Truman dropped the bomb, and then before there was any decision as to whether Japan was going to surrender, ENIAC made its own calculation and said, you know what, if we drop a second one, then the probability percentage that Japan will surrender goes up to almost 100%. So ENIAC drops the second bomb by itself. It sends what's called a dead hand order, and what that means is it's an order that cannot be revoked. It's assumed that the order was given and that the president was incapacitated, and so for the sake of national security, the order goes no matter what, and then they drop the second bomb. And so the US decides, well, we're not going to have any of that. So the US bombs the city, the little town that ENIAC is in, but somebody sneaks ENIAC out before the bomb gets dropped. They blow up the town, and the next thing we know, ENIAC is out in the wind, and it's running around basically taking over all the different nuclear weapons for all the different allies and telling them this is how that's going to win wars, etc. Ultimately, it becomes a thing where all of the former allies of the world get together to try to find a way to defeat ENIAC. It is one heck of a book. It is a phenomenal book. I'm not going to screw around. This is definitely one of the best books I've ever read. So it's a 4-issue limited series. The best way that you can get this book is on eBay presently because it's already sold out. It's way sold out. So there's a first printing, and then there's, again, the second printing. The second printing is the same as this, except that it has a black logo instead of white. If you can get a copy of it, get a copy of it and read it. So, and then put it in a bag and board because it's going to be difficult to find it for a while. I have yet to see the next printing. They call it the next printing. I've yet to see it again available in the shops, and technically I think the shop can't even sell you a second copy of the second printings. Or if you have this copy, I don't know. I think the rule is that the shop can't even sell you the next printing. There are a lot of strange rules that are going around about based upon whether or not a shop can sell you a particular book. And there's some question as to whether or not Bad Idea is actually requiring receipts for these things. But bottom line, it's a hot book to get. It's a great book. It lives up to the hype. And I can't really stress to you enough that this is a phenomenal book. The writing is perfect. The art is fantastic. The colors are great. And the production value is just phenomenal. It's outstanding. So it's a 4-issue miniseries. So I highly recommend that you follow them on Twitter. They're at Bad Idea Hello. And they have a link there that is whereisbadidea.com. And I believe the actual official site is badideacorp.com. That's C-O-R-P. Find out where your local shop is or the one that's closest to you and call them up and say, hey, put me down for everything from Bad Idea, because these books are hard to come by. Furthermore, if you're the first person to pick up your copy of the first issue of a book, there is a pen that they give out. So I actually went to my local shop and someone beat me. There were two people, actually a couple people beat me. There were two people in front of me in line before the shop even opened. So I definitely didn't get my first pen for ENIAC, but there's another book that just came out called Tankers. I did not get the pen for Tankers. Somebody else was there before me, and these pens are going for a lot of money on eBay as well. They're collector's items as well. It's kind of ironic. Bad Idea was created as a publisher to kind of get away from these anti-consumer practices of 50,000 different variant covers for a book or whatever, or jacking up the prices of the book. The books are $4.99, I believe, and they are sold at cover price, period. The shops cannot mark up the price of the book, so if you're on the list, you get the book. So if you're on the list and they order the book, then you get the book. So it's very funny that way. So we have ENIAC number 1, and then last Wednesday, ENIAC number 2 came out, and the book continues to be freaking awesome. The story is fantastic. You know, it's one of the best books I've ever read, and I mean that. So there are 2 more issues that are coming out, and I believe this is on track now, because this was last month, and then this is this month. So I believe this is on March, and this is for April. So we got May and June. Again, follow them on Twitter, call your local shop, and get on the pull list for this. And there's a bunch of other Bad Idea comics coming out. Speaking of which, Tankers number 1 just came out last Wednesday. It's by Robert Venditti and Juan Jose Rip and Andrew Dalhouse. So this book is also freaking amazing as well. This book is about an oil company that sends these mechs back into time to avert the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, so that they can have more dinosaurs to eventually, have more oil and more natural gas reserves. The idea is that if they go back and they divert the meteor or the comet that destroyed the dinosaurs for another 50 million years, then there will be that many more dinosaurs that will die, and there will be that much oil that's available for drilling for this gas company. It is a stupid idea, but it's a great idea for a comic book. So these guys, they invent time travel so they can get another 100 years of oil reserves. If you can invent time travel, start working on cold fusion, guys. But anyway, by Robert Venditti, one of my favorite writers. This is also available. It is a Bad Idea comic. Again, get on the wait list for all of these books. Get on the pull list for all of these books. I'm telling you right now. All of these books, they have Easter eggs in them. One of the things you want to make sure that you do is read the copyright information. For this one, it says there are no dinosaurs that were harmed in the making of this book, except for one, and he knows what he did. So these guys have a real good sense of humor. So make sure that you keep an eye out for Easter eggs, even in the small print of these books. Also, another thing I almost forgot to mention, each one of these books has a backup story. So you've got the main story, and then you have the backup story. And the backup stories are pretty awesome. This one has a backup story about this guy that's locked in a little prison and he's trying to get out. I kind of figured it out ahead of time of what was going on, but it's really inventive. It's a really well-written story. It's kind of underground, these backup stories that they have, but they're really good. Tankers actually has a backup story featuring Abraham Lincoln and aliens. So also written by Robert Venditti. So that one's a really good story too. It's just great writing. These are my favorite books. Both of these books. Right here, ENIAC and Tankers are my favorite comic books presently that I own. This one actually has, in this issue, an Easter egg where their backup story has this guy wandering past a sign that says Greenleaf Oil, which is the oil company in Tankers. So follow them on Twitter, go to the website, call your local shop that has all the Bad Idea books, and say, put me down for every single one of these books. It's a great company, and the writers and artists are actually really responsive. So if you tweet at them, they'll respond to you and they'll interact with you, and it's how comics really should be. I cannot stress enough. This is what the big 2 should be. They should be like Bad Idea, and they should be about just fun, good comics, and none of the idiot hiring, none of the trying to use comics as a stepping stone to do something else. This company is about making good comics, period. They're not about movies, they're not about TV deals, they're not about Netflix deals, they're not about telling you how to live your life. They're just making great comics, and there are a lot of independent comics movements out there right now, and there are a lot of independent comics that are being produced, but Bad Idea is the best example of what comics should be doing to live their best lives. ENIAC number 2 is currently out. Call your local shop. They may have it, they may not, they probably don't. Again, Tankers number 1 is also out. Call your shop, see if they have it, they probably don't. And ENIAC number 1 is probably long gone. I think the only way that you're gonna find this book right now is on eBay. So it is sold out everywhere, and there will be a next printing. There already is a next printing, but it's very difficult to get a copy of that. I mean, you can wait and eventually it'll be out there. There seems to be some question as to what the availability of the next printing of this is going to be. So, but going forward, you can certainly get on the list for these books and other great books from Bad Idea. I'm not even gonna give these, a score. These are just damn good books. Read them. Okay, I'm telling you right now, just go read them. So Tankers number 1, ENIAC number 2, currently out. ENIAC number 1, if you can find it, good luck. They have additional books coming out from Bad Idea, the writers and artists, and even the CEO of Bad Idea will even interact with people on Twitter. It's happened with me. These guys are freaking awesome. Buy their books, support good comics. That's all I have to say about that. Again, this is Comics with Drew. My name is Drew. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like it. And if you want to see additional videos from me where I ramble incoherently about comic books and stuff in general, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.